Okay, so you're working on the demons, you've maybe done a little study at this point, hopefully understand a little bit about ball flight laws, and you can start to work on this next piece. So the first goal, if you're going to fix it, is we're going to try to develop one shape to your tee shots. Now it could be different for driver and 3-wood, so you could maybe hit fades with the driver and maybe draws with the 3-wood or the 3-iron or whatever, and that's totally fine. But let's say you're going to work on one club, like the driver, for example. You are going to hit the practice area with a one-track mind. You want to see the ball curve the same way as often as possible. That's our first step. Okay, we're not going to be Johnny Shotmaker out there trying to hit like little low draws and high power fades and trying to work the ball too much. Okay, that stuff is way overrated anyway. And you're way better off trying to be really good at one shot versus, terrible at a bunch of shots, especially on the course. So we're going to shoot for one shape to your shot. Let's just say in this example, let's say you decide you want to hit a fade with the driver. So one thing the D-Mini player has to do is we want to cut out as many variables as we can. Okay, we can't be having variables stacked on top of each other and expect to be consistent at all. So some of the things that you assume you do well, you may want to double check. So for me, as I was fixing my problem, what I did was I would set up with an alignment rod for my alignment, right, and another alignment rod at a 90-degree angle, so that I could make sure the ball position was the same every time too. Okay, ball position is really overlooked a lot for the D-Mini player. They just kind of assume that it's okay or that it's consistent. It very well might not be. But it's really, really important to have the ball position consistent, because that changes in the ball position influence the path of the club as it works through the hitting zone in this kind of circular arc. So you got to have the ball position in the same spot. Another often overlooked piece is the grip. Okay, your grip is your primary, this is the primary factor, I would say, in how the club face is going to look coming into the ball. And the club face, as we talked about earlier, is hypercritical for a D-Mini player to have some control over that face. So I went so far as to put reminders on all my clubs, like I used to have back in the day. They don't really make them too much anymore. It's hard to find them. But I put some reminders in all my clubs just to help me feel that same consistent grip placement, so that I knew my grip and the club face were in a consistent orientation all the time. Whether it's strong or weak doesn't really matter. You can be successful with a variety of different ones as long as it's the same every time, though. So don't assume that you're good there. That's pitfall number one. Once you kind of get a handle on that, you decide what kind of shot shape you're going to hit with the driver. Then your mission is to go out and practice and try to make it only curve that way. Okay, make it only curve that way. And you don't even have to really worry yet about like where it starts or how much it curves. But let's say you want to hit a fade, you got to be able to go out there and hit 19 out of 20 that curl from left to right. You do that by making sure the face is open to the swing path and impact. It would be the opposite for a draw, of course. But you want to get out there and you want to curve the ball the same way every time. You want to get used to seeing that shot and feeling that shot. And as you do it more and more often, and you get that ball to curve the same way, then we can start to add a couple of swing tweaks, or not tweaks, but swing keys to help with just two things. So once you get to the point where you can curve it the same way every time, then all you need is a swing key if it's curving too much. You need a swing key if it's not curving enough. So you have one kind of set of swing keys for the amount of curve. And then you just have another little set of swing keys for where it starts. If it's starting too far left or too far right, you can have some little things maybe in setup or ball position and things to help influence those a little bit. But we're trying to narrow down our amount of swing thoughts. We're trying to get the ball to curve the same way every time. Reduce the amount of variables as much as possible. And eventually you get down to the point where you've got, okay, the ball is curving, in this case, left to right. You have a solution if it's curving too much. You have a solution if it's not curving enough. And then you can change a couple little things maybe in the setup if it's starting too far left or right. That's where you want to get to. So step one is get to the range. get your alignment rods out, get the ball position consistent, start to be real careful with how you grip the club, make sure it's the exact same every time, and then make some swings with that shape in mind, and feel what it feels like to curve the ball the same way over and over, like day in, day out, curving it the same way, curving it the same way, curving it the same way, as opposed to, you know, going out there and trying to like swing and see what happens, or you know, hit a draw on this shot and a fade on this shot. It isn't the way to do it for a D&D player. Okay, so this is where there's a little modification. So, you know, back then I was trying to hit a certain shot shape, and my miss was a hook, personally. Or that was miss one. That was always the one that set things in motion. Hit a big hook and then overcorrect, and then just back and forth between those two. So because I hated the hook so much, I wanted to hit a fade. That was what I was trying to go with, and you can kind of hear it in these videos. I'm talking about trying to hit a fade with my driver. And that worked a little bit. To be honest, I still have to feel in my swing like I'm trying to hit a slight fade, but I don't actually expect it to fade. And here's what I went with. I decided, and this might be controversial, this might not work for everybody, okay? I decided that I was really good at, if I wanted to make a curve left, I could really make a curve left. And if I wanted to curve it right, I could really make a curve right. I had trouble with the subtleties though. So I asked myself a question. I said, what can you not overdo? What can you not overdo? And I decided that you can't overdo straight. So, you know, there's no such thing as too straight. So I went from trying to hit, hook to block, and then I tried to hit fades. I went to just trying to hit like laser beams all day long. That doesn't mean that they always are straight. Some have little fades on them. Some have little draws on them, you know, but if I hit a bad one, you know, a little left or a little right, instead of thinking, you know, like let's say I hook one and I know the face was closed, or maybe I got it on the toe or whatever. Instead of thinking I need to get it more open, I think I need to get it more square, because you can't overdo square. It's like just a subtle difference in the mentality, but that helped me a lot. You know, there's definitely tour players that hit the same shape all the time. They're really good at it. But there's also some that, you know, maybe more than you'd know, that pretty much pursue straight. I like that as a general idea because, like I said, it's impossible to overdo. No such thing as too straight.